Welcome back, my people. Welcome back to Sister Lot Quick Bible Studies. If you subscribe, then you are part of my soul tribe that I pray for often. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any more Bible studies. I do the Bible studies weekly, usually on Wednesdays or Sundays. Eventually, I will start to do Bible studies every Wednesday and Sundays. But make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. The last Bible studies is already recorded. Make sure you catch up with my past videos on this channel so you can catch up with the Bible studies. And I give my own interpretation of the King James Version Bible from the Original African Heritage Study Edition, King James Version. And I have the gift of vision from the Lord, and also I have knowledge of African history. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for the Bible studies from me, Sister Lot Quick, so that you get the great and real interpretation of the Bible. Yes, and I'm going to go ahead and continue with our Bible study with Genesis chapter 40. The last video I did was Genesis chapter 38 and 39 about Joseph, who was sold off to the Egyptian Pharaoh after he was put in a pit by his jealous brothers because they was jealous of his colors and how his father loved him more because he had the colorful coat. But I use my own interpretations and give more insight also. And make sure you check out that video, Genesis Bible Study, chapter 38 and 39. So you see what I mean by my interpretations. I give special interpretations that nobody else does. Yes, that's what the Bible is for you to learn and use your own interpretations. But also, like I said, I have the gift of vision. Everybody does not have the gift of vision from God. So it's good to be led and taught by somebody that does have a special gift from God. Make sure you study along with me if you would like. You can also read along with me with your Bible or just listen with the video. Genesis chapter 40. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. Yes, see, the Pharaoh was like the president nowadays, or somebody rich. The Pharaoh had control, just like the president and the government got control. Back then in ancient Egypt times, the Pharaoh had control of the government. And they were rich. So that's why he had butlers and chiefs and servants and things like that. Okay, so Genesis chapter 40, verse 3. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. And so I will pause, in between to give insight in my interpretation. But what happened was Joseph was put into prison because the Pharaoh's wife falsely accused him of rape. Or she falsely accused him of having sex with him, but really Joseph denied sex with her. She the one that tried to have sex with him. And he ran out and left his coat. But that's what really happened. The Pharaoh's wife falsely accused Joseph because Joseph offended her by not having sex with her when she demanded him to. Okay. All right, and I'm going to start again, verse 4 of chapter 40 in Genesis. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them. And they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. Okay, I'm going to pause just for a minute just to let you know that the last video I did do it a live video, but for some reason YouTube does not show the live videos with the regular videos. So that's why I uploaded the live video again of Genesis chapter 38 and 39. Make sure you check it out, please. And hit the thumbs up button. Hit that like button to support the channel for Sister Like Quick. Hit the thumbs up, like button, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Verse 6. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his Lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. Okay, so I'm going to pause about that part where Joseph said, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. So when he said interpretations belong to God, but he still asked him to tell him so that he can possibly give him the interpretation, I'm assuming God is in us. So God gives us the power to do certain things also. So we can use our interpretations also of dreams. But the Lord gives us the knowledge, just like he gives us the knowledge to interpret the Bible. Okay, and I'm going to continue. Verse 11. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. Okay, so this is what the dream of the dream was of the ward in the prison. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place. And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, in his former manner when thou was his butler. Okay, so some of those people, the prisoners that's in the prison with Joseph, they used to work as butlers for the Pharaoh, but for some reason they were locked up with him. That's how I interpret them. But Joseph is telling them that in 3 days, he said, in 3 days, the Pharaoh's head, he would rise. His head will rise. Okay, one moment. I will pause in between to get more interpretations. One moment. Yeah, he said the 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place, and thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and shew kindness, I pray thee unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. So he's saying that when they become butlers again to Pharaoh, to give mention to Joseph, to the Pharaoh, and ask him to get him out of that jail, the prison. Verse 15, for indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing. He said he has done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. The dungeon meaning their jail. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was all of manner of baked meats for Pharaoh. And the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. Ain't that something? So he's saying that he had meats for bakery in his head, in his basket on top of his head. And the birds came and ate out of the basket on top of his head. Birds to me are symbol of angels or passed away spirits. And Joseph answered and said, this is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. So he's giving the baker another dream interpretation. Okay, and Joseph answered and said, this is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree. And the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up his head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup unto Pharaoh's hand. And he hanged the chief baker, and Joseph had interpreted to them. He said, but he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to him. So Joseph's interpretation of the dream came true when he told him that the man was going to hang from a tree and the birds shall eat his flesh. And so that's why he said, verse 22, because he said he was restored again, as he said that he was restored again to work with the Pharaoh. Okay, just like he said, and he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. So that's probably the chief butler's karma, because Joseph asked him to mention Joseph to the Pharaoh, and asked the Pharaoh to get him out of that dungeon. But the butler did not mention Joseph. So it was already foreseen that the butler was not going to do the favor that Joseph asked him to do, to ask him to mention him so he can get him out of the jail. But nonetheless, the Pharaoh he hung the butler, and the dream came, the interpretation came true, that he was hung. But I'm interpreting it that was his karma for not mentioning what Joseph asked him when they was both in the prison. Joseph gave him an interpretation of his dream, but the man did not keep his word and request of Joseph to mention Joseph's name to the Pharaoh and ask to free Joseph. Chapter 41. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came out of the river 7 well-favored kine, and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. Okay, bear with me as I am speaking old language of the Shakespearean language, that the ancient King James wrote it in the Shakespearean language during the King James time. But King James was interpreting the Bible from ancient Egyptian times, but he used his language. So I'm speaking in King James language. Okay, so bear with me with this King James Shakespearean language. Verse 3. And behold, 7 of the kind came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed. That means they were angry, ill-favored, and they were skinny. And when they said lean-fleshed, that meant they were skinny. And stood by the other kind upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kind did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kind. So Pharaoh awoke. And he slept and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wine sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that this spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt. So they're saying the Pharaoh was troubled about his dreams, and he called for the magicians of Egypt and the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. So they're saying that the magicians of Egypt could not interpret the dream that the Pharaoh had about the stalks of corn and the men eating the 7 well-favored and fat kind. Chapter 41, verse 8. And it came to pass in the morning that this spirit was troubled. Okay, I read that part already, but I'm going to finish reading it. And called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof, and Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with the servants, and put me in the ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams, to each man according to his dream he did interpret. Okay, so this other chief baker is telling the Pharaoh of how Joseph interpreted a dream to them in the prison 2 years ago. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was, me and he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, and changed his remnant, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand the dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph in my dream, Behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, Okay? So I'm just wondering why he said it's not in me, because he can interpret it, but you decide what that means when he said that. I'm sensing that he was being humble to God. That's why he said, God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. That's probably why he said it is not in me. He's being humble that God gave him that gift to interpret it. Okay, verse 17. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph in my dream, Behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat, fleshed, and well favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill favored and lean fleshed, such as I never saw in the land of Egypt, for badness. And the lean and the ill favored kine did eat up in the first 7 fat kine. Did eat up the first 7 fat kine. So they're saying the lean favorite kind, meaning the lean skinny men, kind means they're kind, did eat up the first 7 fat kind. They ate the fat men, the fat kind. They were different kinds, but they ate the fat kind. They ate their flesh. It's awful. Cannibalism. Verse 21. So they ate their flesh because they were starving in their dream. Okay, it was like they came up out of the sea or something like that. That's how I'm interpreting that. He said, I stood upon the bank river, and there came up out of the river. So they came up out the river. These kind of people of flesh or animals, wherever they were, they came up out the river. Some of the kind were fat. Some of the kind were lean. Lean meaning skinny or thin. But the thin kind ate the flesh of the fat kind that came up out the river in the Pharaoh's dream. That's how I interpret that. It's awful. Okay, verse 19 again. And behold, 7 other kind came up after them, poor and very ill favored and lean flesh, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt, for badness. And the lean and the ill favored kind did eat up the first 7 fat kind. So they ate the 7 fat kind. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill favored, as at the beginning. So I awoke, and I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears, withered, thin, and blasted, with the east wind sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told unto the magicians, and I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. That's what the Pharaoh said to Joseph. Verse 25. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kind are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kind that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land, and the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. So they're saying, and the plenty shall not be known, meaning that it'll be a while before people remember that people were fat and had plenty, because for years it would be famine and people starving. That's how I interpret that. And they say it shall be very grievous, meaning that it would cause a lot of grief from the famine. Verse 32. And for that dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. So that's what Joseph is giving the Pharaoh advice what to do, to save some of the food that they have plenty now. Save some of it so that they'll have some when the time of famine comes. That's how I interpret that. Chapter 41, Genesis chapter 41, verse 37. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, bowed the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. So Pharaoh is telling Joseph that Joseph would be with Pharaoh, and he would not have to lift up his hand or work in the land of Egypt no more. He would be in the castle, in the mansion in the castle with Pharaoh. And wherever the Pharaoh went, sometimes they had like a parade, and they had the chariots, and they had and the servants carried them in the chariots on top of their shoulders. They carried them on top of their shoulders in the chariots. And Joseph was in the second chariot behind the Pharaoh. So he was very royal. He was royal. Pharaoh made him part of the royalty. That's how I interpret that. It's wonderful. Because he believed his spirits. He believed his power from God. in his interpretation of his dreams. And he gave him wise counsel. That's why the Pharaoh honored him. Okay? In verse 45, and Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphanath Paneah, and gave him to wife Esnath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. So Joseph was able to walk around also, and go about the land of Egypt. And he had his wife, his own family. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. Meaning that those 7 years it was plentiful, like Joseph said, like he predicted. Verse 48, and he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field, which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph was born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asnai, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of his firstborn Manasseh. Manasseh. For God said, he hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. I'm going to read that again. And Joseph called the name of his firstborn Manasseh. For God said, he hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. So basically, Joseph was happy about his firstborn. He was happy that his wife gave him a son, and he was so happy to have his family that he's saying God bless him to forget about all his toil that he had before in his father's house, and all the the toil, meaning all the work, the hard work he had to do in his past life in his father's house with his jealous brothers that tried to kill him. So he's saying he was so happy God blessed him to forget about all of that. He basically almost forgot about it because he was so happy. Verse 52. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended. It ended. Those plentiful 7 years that came to an end. That's how I interpret that. Eventually. Verse 54. And the 7 years of dearth began to come. According as Joseph had said, and the dearth was all in the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. So basically, in the rest of Africa, it was famine, but in Egypt it was still bread. They still had food. But the rest of the lands in Africa, the famine had hit. It's awful. Verse 55, and when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. So eventually Egypt became famine too, and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, go unto Joseph, what he has said you to do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. So Joseph did go into the storehouses where he told them to store some of the food, and gave some of the food to the Egyptians so that they can have something to eat, because they were famine. And all the countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn. So other countries came. They came by boat or by in the oceans, or they walked from other countries or wherever. Because remember, Africa back then, Africa was the most plentiful. That's where people came to trade. That's where they came to buy things. In Africa, Timbuktu and places like that. But in Egypt, especially, because Egypt was the most royal and royalty at that time. Okay, I'm going to repeat that part. Verse 57. And all the countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all the lands. All right, in Genesis chapter 42. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do ye look one upon another? Now remember, Jacob, it was pronounced back then Yakub. It was pronounced Yakub, so sometimes I might say Yakub instead of Jacob. And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. And also, Jacob is Joseph's father. Jacob does not know that his sons are the reason why Joseph was gone. Jacob thinks that Joseph died because his sons put him in a pit to try to kill him. Or they did something like that to try to kill him. Check out my past videos, my past Bible study videos, to catch up on about Jacob and his sons and Joseph. Genesis chapter 42, verse 2. And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy us from thence, that we may live and not die. So Jacob, Yakub is telling his sons to go to Egypt, go down to Egypt, so that they can get some corn from Egypt so they don't die. Because they was in famine also. Verse 3. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spoke roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamt of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are the servants come. We are all one man's sons. we are true men, thy servants are no spies. And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, Thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this with our father, and one is not. He said, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. And Joseph said unto them, This is it that I spake unto you, saying, Ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh surely ye are spies. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. So basically, Joseph remembered his brothers, and he remembered what they did. Now, I'm not sure if all 10 of them did it. I remember it was 2 of them that put him in the pit to try to kill him, because they were jealous of him. They were jealous that their father, Yaqub, showed him more love. But I guess Joseph was angry about what happened. So he's saying, go get the other brother that they left behind. And he called them other brothers spies, and put them in the ward, in the prison for 3 days. Genesis chapter 42 verse 18. And Joseph said unto them, The return in our sacks at the first time are we brought in. Let me make sure I haven't skipped a page. These pages kind of stick together. See, I did. The pages are so thin and fine in the Bible. Okay. And Joseph said unto them, The 3rd day this do, and live, for I fear God. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses. But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, We are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul, when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. And Reuben answered him, and Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child? And ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, and he spake unto them by an interpreter. So they were speaking a different language. They thought Joseph didn't understand them, because they didn't realize that's his brother, Joseph. Verse 24. And he turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again, and communed with them, and took from them Simeon, and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way. And thus did he unto them. And they laded their asses with the corn, and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender, in the end he espied his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. And he said unto his brethren, My money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that God hath done unto us? And they, okay, wait a minute. It said that heart failed. So, okay, I'm going to keep reading. Verse 29. And they came unto Jacob their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, the man who is the Lord of the land spoke roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said unto him, we are true men, we are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver you your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. And it came to pass that they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. Okay, so I'm assuming they were surprised that Joseph put money in the bags of corn, the sacks of corn. Joseph also put money in there, so that's why they said they had a heart attack. They were so surprised that Joseph put money in the sack of corn. So I'm gonna read that again, verse 35. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. So they were afraid because they didn't want to be accused of stealing the money. That's how I interpret that. Verse 36. And Jacob their father said unto them, me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and ye will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for my brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in which ye go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Chapter 43 of Genesis. And the famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, the man did solemnly protest us, saying, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had yet a brother? And they said, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Have he another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for them of my hand shalt thou require him, if I bring him not unto thee. Then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned this second time. And their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm, and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in your mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man, and God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother in Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And the men took the present, and they took double money in their hand in Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of the house, bring these men home, and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. So they were saying slay, meaning to slay some animals for dinner. Genesis chapter 43, verse 17. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that returned in our sacks, at the first time are we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us, and fall upon us, and take us for bondmen and our asses. And they came near the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the end, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. And other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And he said, peace be to you, fear not your God, and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out unto them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. You can look that up and see what provender means, but I guess that meant provender is something for them to eat. Verse 25. And they made ready the present against Joseph, came at noon. Okay, I'm going to read that again. And they made ready the present against Joseph, came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, Is your father well, the old man of whom ye spake? Is he yet alive? And they answered, Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up their eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread. And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews. For that is an abomination unto Egyptians. And they sat before him, and the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled at one at another. And he took and sent messes unto them for before him. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank and were merry with him. Wonderful. Hey, wonderful. I'm going to end the Bible study today right here. And the next Bible study will start at Genesis chapter 44. I hope you enjoyed my interpretations of the Bible study. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure you share and subscribe and let your friends and family know about Sister LaQuick Bible study. And the more we have together, study together, the greater it will be. You're welcome to comment, share, and like, and subscribe. Please donate also. Your donations are needed and appreciated. My Cash App is in the description box on my channel. You can donate by Cash App or by PayPal. Any amount is greatly appreciated and will help this channel and Sister LaQuick. Thank you so much. And come again.